Hey, good morning, everyone. Nice to see you. There's a lot of congrats in order, so thank you for clapping. First, we have Ed, who has run a 100-year-old airline, Delta. He's also been in the seat for nearly 10 years. And then we have Tony, who has launched an airline literally yesterday. Riyadh Air just had its inaugural flight, its first flight. And all went smooth. How did it feel, Tony, to be finally at that launch phase? You've been planning this for a few years. How did it go?
So I had a great night's sleep last night, I can tell you. The nights leading up to that wasn't quite as easy, but yeah, what a special day. 26th of October, the movie was 3 years in the making, and there's nothing better than seeing our aircraft land at London Heathrow 10 minutes ahead of schedule to mark that very, very special moment. On the same day, to have the pleasure of a dear friend, Mr. Ed Bastian, do a town hall speech with all of our staff. But of course, that was the 26th. It was a day after Emirates started on the 25th, 40 years earlier. So all came together. Feeling good today.
Amazing. Well, so Ed, what were your words of wisdom as the most profitable airline CEO in America and one of the largest airline carriers in the world? What was your advice to Tony's team, which is about 700 people strong, I understand it?
Yeah, it was a special day, and congratulations to Tony and the team. I've been on the journey with you for almost 2 years now, watching this. I said to the team, now Tony knows what his wife feels like giving birth. That sense of struggle and pride and exuberance all put together. What I told them was what made Delta strong is our focus on our own people. You know, in our business, everyone focuses on the airline, the aircraft, the technology, the airports, the amazing destinations we get to. But it's the staff that bring it to life. It's the service that has to be remembered from the heart. And I gave them the words that our founder gave us 100 years ago. You know, take good care of your people so that they can take care of your customers. And then your customers will reward you with their loyalty. But you have to do it in that order. And as leaders, we sometimes focus on how do we continue to enhance the customer experience, obsessing about customers. I get it. I like to say at Delta, I obsess on my 100,000 own, so that they can then go do the amazing work that our customers deserve. And it's in that order first. If your people don't feel that love and respect and care, they're never going to be able to give you the service that you expect from Delta. I know Tony is that person in terms of leadership. They're privileged to have such a caring leader, an experienced leader, and that's the order in which I left with them.
And I just want to reiterate that when you say that, you actually mean it. Stakeholder capitalism in some areas has fallen a little bit out of favor. CEOs just care about the bottom line. But you actually, when you were CFO of Delta, you helped create one of the most robust profit-sharing programs that exists, at least in corporate America, for 100,000 employees. So absolute you.
Thank you, Alyson.
So Tony, you've also worked at Legacy Airlines. What were you so excited to ditch and just start over? Like, what were you just like, thank God I don't have to deal with that anymore. In my new digital airline vision, this is what we're going to lean to instead.
So, as I said before, 3 years in the making. The gift, I guess, we had was no legacy. And our board had the opportunity to sit back and to consider very carefully, did we either A, want to be the biggest startup in recent history that followed a time-honored approach in terms of systems, how you ticket, or do you want to be B, the first airline to be a true digital native? And because we didn't have legacy, the correct answer was, of course, B. And over the course of that 3 years, we have been busy building a technology stack that will bring an altogether different experience for our guests, the traveling public, a far more intuitive way of interacting with the airline, a way in which, for example, you can book similar to what you would do with Amazon or noon.com in this part of the world by putting into the basket your whole family on one order. You could be traveling on different days with 5 members of your family in 3 different cabin classes It's all on one order. If one person then needs to cancel, you can get an instant credit back in exactly the same way you would do with an Amazon or a noon.com. Now, it's difficult to try and resolve that as a solution and back integrate, but because we didn't have a legacy, this was a golden opportunity. And we've learned so much from Delta, from the wisdom of 100 years of excellence. That served us really well in being able to design something that becomes a build. And I remember it was actually in Las Vegas in January, Ed gave an incredible speech in the Sphere, remarkable venue, about the word concierge. And that's what we've been working on together, is the ability to have a digital interface that uses agentic AI as your concierge. Because of course, we all want slightly different things. So this is now upon us. Like anything in the digital space, there'll be version releases that will continue to build additional functionality. But I would describe it as a small step for mankind, actually a giant leap for commercial aviation.
And the experience you're creating sounds very futuristic as well, like no boarding passes ever. Is that right? Even no mobile boarding pass, no, like it's just gonna be your face, all biometrics?
So that is the ambition, and from a technology point of view, it's available today. But of course, there's a lot of regulation, and there's many steps to be able to get that internationally adopted.
Including safety, data protection.
Yeah, but most people, I imagine, in this room use facial recognition on your banking apps. And have you got a more secure app that you use? So the technology is currently available. So don't be surprised if what you see with us is the way in which we start connecting that capability and giving a far better experience.
And that's where we're moving to and have been moving for some time, Alyson. And I realize, as Tony said, there's a lot of regulatory approvals required. But the seamlessness of the experience when you use our virtual ID, you know, going through security or coming through customs when you return back to the States with global entry, and the fact that you basically show up, you take a picture of your face, and you're through customs in a matter of seconds, is game-changing.
It is, it really, especially after a long flight from Riyadh.
A long flight, exactly.
And so speaking of long flights from Riyadh, I know you two have a partnership, and Ed, just this morning you all announced a new route from Atlanta to Riyadh. Why are you bullish on American consumers, quite frankly, being ready to come to Saudi? I know of my friends, I'm one of the first to be here. I think business in America is very ready to be here, but is really the American traveler and the American consumer ready?
They will be. And I imagine when you go back, as you have been here before, you tell them why you went, and you actually find areas of interest. What you see when you come to Riyadh, when you come to Saudi Arabia, is just an amazing display of development, of tourism, of opportunity, but beyond all of that, the thing I tell my friends that haven't been here from the States, it's the people. It's the people. You know, being here for the culture of the warmth, the hospitality that's authentic, that's embraced. Americans aren't quite sure, you know, given the historical tensions, geopolitical tensions, for example, or religious, you know, tensions in the past. And when you say that, yeah, it's actually one of the favorite places I've been to in a very long time, they're amazed, and you know what, they want to come. And when you see the development that's going on here in the country, Vision 2030 is such an important achievement and ambition for this kingdom. We want to be part of that. And yeah, it'll start slow. It's the first flight, first U.S. airline to have direct service. But I believe it's going to gain popularity quickly.
And international expansion is obviously one of your priorities. Congratulations on incredible earnings recently as well. At the start of this year, it looked a little bit unpredictable, and you know, navigating all the geopolitical reordering, uncertainty, tariffs, trades, everything. Of course, airlines are deeply impacted by that. Ed, you've seen multiple cycles, and in April, when tariffs were announced from the United States, you actually pulled guidance for your investors and just said, like, we don't know. we don't know what's going to happen. And actually now you're back to plan. So you kind of went out of the dip and got back to where you were supposed to be. But do you think that things like pulling investor guidance, like these moves that have been sort of unconventional before, are going to become something more regular that CEOs need to be thinking about, given the uncertainty environment where the only certainty is uncertainty?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And the resilience you create as a result of that is what got us through that. I call it the spring swoon, when we went through that little period. We got through it quickly, fortunately. And there was change going on at a macro level from at least a U.S. standpoint that we had not seen in quite a long time. And we felt the responsible thing was to say, it really depends, on what happens. And within a matter of months, we were able to be back on track and provide that confidence. And people are starting to understand, how these trade deals are being sorted. And as deals are coming together, people are realizing, okay, I may agree, may not agree, but at least I understand what's happening here, so I can make my plans. Companies, it wasn't just consumers, it was companies were frozen for a short period of time. And capital deployment was a question. And the markets were seized, temporarily by that. And fortunately, we got through it quickly.
And Tony, how are you thinking about, how are you planning for growth, planning KPIs and goals and things amid such volatility where it really is going to be unpredictable?
So I guess I'll go back to your earlier question, Alyson. Events like this one today, of course, FII starts tomorrow. The amount of international guests that are in Riyadh, but for many of them, it probably wasn't the easiest capital city to get to directly.
No.
And I can see people nodding in the room already, because I know that we are nowhere near as well connected today as we need to be. And that's the reason why the wisdom of His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, actually decreed the establishment of a new national carrier. So part of that mandate is to give us direct access within the next 5 years to over 100 cities around the world, and therefore serve people in rooms like this. Of course, Expo 2030 coming up. Many of you have probably driven past it coming from the airport. FIFA World Cup 2034, and the list just goes on and on and on. But we all know there's very few examples of sustainable economies that haven't got world-class connectivity. And that's what our mandate's all about. Super exciting.
And where is profitability on your list of priorities?
So we're 100% owned by the Public Investment Fund, and therefore we are subjected to red-blooded capitalism, and that's a good thing. So it's very, very clear with our shareholder that we have EBITDA positive target dates, we have profitability target dates, and from the get-go, back to having no legacy, this was about designing a balance sheet from day one that will be commercially sustainable on its own 2 feet. And it absolutely has to be, because airlines that are not normally end up in tears. And I've been around a few of those as well.
And if I could add to that,
yeah,
Alyson, yesterday afternoon I spent the afternoon with Tony and his team at their headquarters. And talk about the digital backbone that they've created. It's really, it's amazing. And for 100 years of service, and then we look at this, they just had their first day yesterday. It's incredible. They knew yesterday what the profitability of that flight was.
What was it?
Yesterday. You don't have to answer that. But the point is, and it wasn't open for commercial, but they had friends and family on it. But they have the ability to talk about profit, how important profit. They know when the door closes what the profit of that flight's going to be. I mean, it took us years, decades, before we can get a sense for kind of some real-time level of understanding. And so the fact that, it isn't the fact that they can do it, it's the fact that they are focused on it, and they present it to me, their plan to watch it tells you that they are very focused on profits, not just on growth.
So, Ed, I mean, you know the thing about profits. You've built the most profitable airline, as we've said a few times here. And part of how you did that was you anticipated that loyalty and premium seats were going to be an important part of the business model at a time when, for a lot of American airlines at least, budget pricing was the way forward. So I'm curious how you made the decision to lean into it early, and what it means for future travel trends, and then also, Tony, how you're looking at what Ed has done and thinking, this seems like maybe a good strategy.
Well, we went through a real disruptive period in the States following 9/11. Many of the airlines went through bankruptcy, and the reason we did was not that we weren't well run, is that we were not differentiated. You go back 25, 30 years in time in the US, and you ask consumers then, what were the main reasons you chose that flight or that airline? 75, 80% of the reason was price. Whoever had the lowest price got the bid. And we knew we're an international airline, we're global, we've got a lot of people, we've got a lot of opportunity. We would never win on a low-cost strategy. So for us, it was a matter of survival, that we had to figure out how we were going to differentiate ourselves. Started with reliability, making sure we're the most reliable airline in the sky. And the team worked several years following the Northwest acquisition back in 2009 to attain that. And we continue to work on improving it ever since. Once you develop the reliability standard, your staff starts to believe that this thing is different. And the customers start to see this thing is different. And then you can start to layer in the premium opportunities to add premium service, but also add a premium price point. We, in the US, generate what's roughly a 20% price premium versus the industry at large to fly Delta. And as I tell my team, don't ever apologize for it. We're worth it. Because consumers are willing, and they have choice out there, because it's important to them. So that's what gave us that confidence. And then we just continue to grow and build. And you look at the partnerships we created, whether it was with American Express, the premier credit card company in the US and in parts of the world, Uber, Starbucks, other brands started wanting to get within our ecosystem, and we started to expand. And then we're going internationally, and we're a great airline like Riyadh Air is going to be part of our portfolio. So it started with the notion that if we didn't differentiate, we were going to die, and we still have that same level of urgency today.
And Tony, how are you looking at cost, about building a loyalty program? I think Sphere, is that what it's called? Can you tell us a little bit about how you're planning to make your product sticky and desirable, especially when you have 40-year-old Emirates really close by and really a premium product already?
So as you say, take Emirates as a fantastic example. We're very lucky in this part of the world that there are a number of outstanding airlines when it comes to delivering high standards guest experience. We are proudly a full-service carrier, and we, like Delta, have an obsessional attention to detail when it comes to guest experience, and it's about matching that with value. We've tried to curate our product offering with that in mind in just about everything that we do. And of course, at the end of the day, the most important judgment will always be with the guest. But as designed or made it quite clear earlier on, that if you look after your people, if your people look after the guest, that creates loyalty. And with Sphere, what we've tried to do is reinvent the world of traditional airline loyalty programs into a lifestyle proposition. So we had over 400,000 people enroll within 10 days. And the proposition is how you can create your own sphere, hence the name. In Arabic, Allura Arabia, it means ambassador. In the English translation, the idea of your sphere. So my sphere, let's imagine, is my wife, my daughter, and two of my friends. The idea of creating your own sphere is, I probably travel by far and away the most. So in terms of levels, I'm already at the top tier. So in terms of level points, having more of them isn't really going to attain me much more. But let's imagine my daughter is tomorrow going to travel to London on Riyadh Air, and she wants to upgrade. What I can do, basically she wants to upgrade to the next level. I can tap my phone on hers because she's in my sphere, and she then gets the level points to go up a level. So we're not wasting. It's a commodity, it's not wasting. Equally, Mrs. Douglas, for whom which the credit card is a liability for me, might have been attracting the most points, but she doesn't fly as much as me. And because I've been using all of my points. I want an upgrade when I'm traveling on Riyadh Air in terms of business elite, an incredible product in the front row. Mrs. Douglas can tap her phone onto mine, give me her miles, which allow me then to upgrade. So the idea of no wastage within the sphere. And we've learnt so much when we look at Delta in terms of how they've embraced that as an engagement strategy to give greater value and to have a proposition. So if anybody's not signed up for Sphere yet, trust me, it will give you an amazing experience, and you can download it from the App Store and, of course, from the Android store immediately. How about that?
Did you say 400,000 signups in 10 minutes?
In 10 days.
10 days, 10 days. Well, 10 days is still very impressive.
10 days
minutes
feels
would
like
have
10
been
minutes,
insane.
right?
10 minutes would have been
amazing.
bots. 10 days is legit. That's amazing. So sustainability is really important, and it can be tough as a legacy airline. I know, Ed, there's so much that you're doing in the space, but it's hard. I'm curious how you're both thinking about that. And I know, Tony, you told Fortune previously, like, look, if you're an airline who's not thinking about sustainability, you won't be sustainable. So I open the floor.
So our brand is clear. The brand is Riyadh, and we've got 3 pillars. First one I've already mentioned, an obsessional attention to detail with guest experience. The second one is to become a true digital native. And the third one is to be a thought leader when it comes to commercial aviation sustainability. And we've always found from the get-go that there are 3 pillars that we've got absolutely in common, which is one of the many reasons why I think this relationship works so well. In terms of the sustainability agenda, I've said many times before, in the future, the graveyard will have tombstones in it which says, here lies the airline that didn't take this agenda seriously, because it, of course, is not going away. But there isn't a silver bullet out there. This is a culmination of ideas in all shapes and sizes, and many that continue to evolve. So we have signed a strategic partnership with Aramco in terms of exploration on alternative energy sources. And for us, that is always going to be a big part of the agenda. But I come back even when I mention Sphere. It sounds completely at the other end of the spectrum, but what we're talking about there is making sure we don't waste loyalty points or level points. And I go back to that one. I would argue the first ever cryptocurrency, even though we didn't know at the time it was that, was actually airline loyalty. But the only difference, if you follow that analogy, and real cryptocurrency is you couldn't share it amongst your family if you choose to do so. So rather than wasting it where, points elapse, that was a different way of looking at a mindset that says, don't waste anything that's valuable. If I go back to digital and agentic AI, it gives people the ability to book things that they really want. And particularly, let's take another example, food and beverage. The amount of waste after a commercial flight, you can only imagine, because you've probably all experienced it in the past where you've been sitting halfway down the cabin, and by the time it comes to you, you want the chicken, but they've only got the fish and the vegetarian left, or whatever the combination is. So there's lots of things that we're trying to build in from the get-go to embrace all of these opportunities just to keep moving this agenda onwards.
And I know you can't answer sustainability in 30 seconds, but could you try?
Yeah, sustainability is core to our license to operate. It's not just, we talk a lot about sustainable aviation fuels, and certainly here in Riyadh it's appropriate. A lot of it's also the engines, it's the aircraft themselves. Every new aircraft we take is 25% more fuel efficient than those that went before it. So that need to continue to invest and have the capital is really important for this.
Amazing. Well, thank you both. Good luck, Tony.
Yeah.
We'll be rooting you on from the States. Thank you, Ed, very much.
Always.
Thanks to all of you for listening.
Good. Thank you, Alyson.